Welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending our session. So this session is about community foundations and nonprofits and what sets them apart and how they work together. So I'm going to lead the panel with some great panel members. I'll introduce myself, and then we'll take turns going down the line so they can introduce themselves as well. So here's my clicker. So, as I said, my name is AJ Koewler. I'm the executive director of the Alexandria Area Community Foundation. Our foundation was founded in 1992, but we became a member of community giving about 10 years ago. For people who don't know, Alexandria is about an hour west of here, and our population is around 14,000 people. Currently, we hold 66 funds, and total assets are usually between 7 and 8 million. But since we started, we've given out over 11 million in grants from the foundation, but then, of course, also our fund holders from their funds in total. And then, since this session is about community foundations and nonprofits and how they work together, just one example of the Community Foundation partnering with Alexandria, our nonprofits in our city of Alexandria, is collectively we've raised over $400,000. We've helped our community and nonprofits for our splash pad. So this is just kind of an example of how community foundations convene and get the whole community together for a cause to benefit our residents. So now I'm going to let Jack Driscoll, he's my board chair, introduce himself and just say a little bit about his role.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I think this works, doesn't it?
Yep.
Okay. I am Jack Driscoll, the one and only. I am rotating off as chair this year from the Alexandria Community Foundation, but I plan on staying on. I've had a very interesting and varied career. I've served on a lot of not-for-profit boards, Weyerhaeuser Family Foundation, Driscoll Foundation, Science Museum of St. Paul of Minnesota, Mississippi Park Connection, Wilderness Inquiry, and all of those organizations utilize public funding. I don't have a lot of agenda today, so I'll leave it up to questions if people have any for me, so I'll pass it on down the line.
Hi everyone, I am Erin Larson. I am the new ED of the Community Foundation for Carver County. I've been here about 4.5 months, so you might see me send questions that way or that way. But we were founded in 2004, just joined community giving about 4 years ago though. We serve 11 municipalities throughout Carver County, so we're a little different than some of the other models you'll see up here. I serve the county as a whole and try to equally represent the 11 different towns throughout that county. Our foundation holds 27 funds, and we right now total about 1.1 million in assets, so I'm smaller than some of my colleagues, but we're working hard to grow that number, of course. Since our inception, we've given out over $100,000 in grants. And then they told me this when they hired me, I think it's true, one of the wealthiest, healthiest, and fastest growing counties in Minnesota. So we're looking very closely at how we can grow quickly. One of our most recent collaborations is we're putting in a new Miracle League field, if anyone's familiar with that. It's an adaptive sports field and playground for people with special needs. So that's kind of our biggest project going on in Carver County right now, and we are glad to be a part of it. And we are talking about and working on, in conjunction with a number of cross-sector partners, a collaborative incubator for future civil servants. So that's on our mind as well. And Laura over here is on my board, so I can gesture to her if I need additional answers as well.
All right, I'm Meredith St. Pierre. I'm the executive director of the Greater White Bear Lake Community Foundation, which was founded 10 years ago in March of 2015. We serve the 7 communities that share the lake, so that is our geographical boundary as a community foundation. And so those are Birchwood, Dellwood, Grant, Matamidi, White Bear Lake, White Bear Township, and Willerny. For those of you who love White Bear Lake and wondered what are the towns around that lake. Also 2 school districts, and we border 2 counties. So of those 7 communities, there's a population of about a little over 50,000. At our foundation, we have 40 funds currently, and we have $5 million in assets. And since the foundation began in 2015, they've given away over $2 million in grant funding through the foundation as well as our donor-advised funds. And our biggest way to support the community is through our Community Partners Grant Program. So last year we gave $100,000 to 23 local nonprofits that are serving those 7 communities around the lake. And I am new as well, like Erin. I started in November. And before that, this is my first stint as a community foundation. I am the 4th executive director in White Bear Lake, but before I got here, I spent 20 years in fundraising events and nonprofits across the state. So I can say a little bit more about the nonprofit side of this conversation today.
Perfect. Thank you all. Before we get into questions, I just wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about the key differences between community foundations and nonprofits. So I'm going to do a little bit of both, but I just wanted to point out a couple things. So community foundations really focus on grant making, whether that's our annually grant round, or we call them grants when fund holders give them out to the community, so donations. While nonprofits usually deliver services to beneficiaries directly. Community foundations have more of a broader mission to improve the quality of life for the community, so really working with other nonprofits and people in the community to improve the quality of life. As far as donor base, community foundations really attract a wider range of donors through individuals, families, and groups of people looking to seek broader causes. And with community engagement, community foundations really work with local stakeholders, whether that's government or leaders of nonprofit to identify community needs. And then every community is different, as you can see from our panel here. So community foundations really work on the local needs and help their local community. And then the last, community conveners. We really try to hear the voices of everybody in the community and work on the needs. And then just a couple other things. Community foundations are set up to accept a wide variety of gifts, which is nice. So we can work on real estate, stock, life insurance. We are experts in legacy giving, so we can really help nonprofits or set up funds for people to give those type of gifts to benefit the nonprofits. And then, of course, the tax benefits of setting up a fund as opposed to making multiple gifts throughout the year to different nonprofits. Sometimes it's easier when people set up a fund, being a 501c3, that's easier. And one thing I really just wanted to point out before we go any further, that both organizations are needed to make a strong community. We work together, we're all needed to benefit where we all live. So I don't know if there's any questions right away, but I just kind of wanted to start with a couple questions. But if you have a question throughout, please raise your hand. We have a mic going through, so you can stop me, and happy to take any questions. But my first question is for Jack. Being a board member, being a fund holder, having family foundations, what do you look for in organizations to either donate to personally or through your foundation? What are kind of some things that...
So that's a really good question. As a grantor, I'm looking for infrastructure projects that are going to be long-lasting, that can help build an organization's capacity. I look at programming. What's an efficient use of those dollars? What's the return? And that's a squishy thing. How do you determine if you're donating to a food shelf, you got a solid number. But if you're donating to a local community that's lost their sawmill, what are the benefits? And how can you accomplish a benefit? So there's a lot of discussion that goes on, and I think that discussion is important. So we find a meaningful delivery mechanism for whatever it is we're trying to address. The Community Foundation, the Alexandria Community Foundation, we have a really strong board. Everybody is very, very active and very committed to the fund. And I totally respect their opinion and solicit it. So asking the donors what they need, or the recipients what they need, And if this is actually the correct way to address that need is really important. So hopefully that's a good short answer for you.
Yes, thank you. Next, I'll go to Meredith and Erin. Both of you mentioned that you're newer executive directors, and both of you came from previous nonprofit organizations. So I know it's only been a couple months, but is there anything you can talk to which is different now working for a community foundation as opposed to working for a nonprofit organization?
Well, I think the thing that excites me the most about being the executive director of Community Foundation is now I get to know the missions of, like, in White Bear Lake, 29 nonprofits doing work, whereas a fundraiser at a nonprofit, there was one mission I was an expert in and one focus, where now I can meet the donor interests, where the donor, like, if you care about puppies, let's talk about puppies. If you care about veterans, let's talk about veterans. But, like, being able to meet a donor and engage with them and help them with their philanthropy in any way, even if before it might have been the mission I was working for didn't meet the donor's interest. So it was, at this point, there's really something for everyone, and at the Community Foundation, we can help donors make a difference. And then also uplifting the nonprofits in my local community. So I live in the White Bear Lake area, so now I'm doing work for where I live and where I hope to grow and retire and enjoy, and now I can really put myself into these nonprofits in a way that I wasn't able to before.
I would echo what Meredith said. I've been so mission-driven for 20 years of my life. I ran development shops at a number of different nonprofits, and now the ability to serve a variety of causes and pivot and focus on a cause that my community is telling me is important is a wonderful freedom to have. I would say the other piece is, because I am kind of a baby foundation at this point, and Dr. Jolly so beautifully said this morning, no foundation has the money to fix everything. But I can offer support and more of a soft skill set that is really beneficial when you are a development team of one at a small grassroots nonprofit. I can sit and listen to all of your problems over coffee, and that feels good. I can give you a free subscription to a really nice grant search database, which is a big deal to a development director. I can counsel you on event planning. I can make recommendations on which software worked well for me. So I'm finding creative ways to support my nonprofit community that doesn't always have to do with a check. And I'm finding that building those relationships just means a longer and more sustainable, successful community foundation where I am. So I'm a little smaller than they are, but we still are a go-to for our groups in our area.
Perfect, thank you. I can add too, being in Alexandria, our population really grows in the summer. A lot of people have cabins there, or a lot of people like to retire there. So a lot of my conversations lately have been about legacy giving, and they really want to support their community that they're moving to. They know just a little bit about it, being summer residents. So I've been able to bring the needs of the community to people who plan to retire and live there. So I talk to them about what they're interested in, and then I bring them what our community needs. So it's nice bridging kind of the gap to help them understand what's going on in our community. Does anybody have any questions? Well, I can keep going. How do you bring donors who have an interest in certain nonprofit organizations and support that organization? So like if someone has an interest in something specific, how can you help them with that, but then also understand the other needs as well?
Again, it's having that conversation, a relaxed conversation, not asking for a give, not, I think that's really important. Say the question again. I probably have more.
How do you bring donors who have an interest in certain nonprofit organizations together?
So meet and greets are important. And we just built a new building on my property in Alexandria that will facilitate that. We can bring donors in, show them around the place. It's an interesting time for them, and they get to meet other interesting people. The wine and wills type of thing that we're developing as a social bonding exercise and giving out information.
I think convening. I think as a community foundation, convening is such a huge part of what we do. So if anyone is in Carver County, we have a breakfast next Wednesday that we are inviting supporters to, but more importantly in my role is bringing all the nonprofit partners so that the donors are actually meeting the people on the front line doing the work, which isn't always accessible if you don't know how to navigate the nonprofit space. I can bring everyone together and make those connections. I think that's a really unique and special role that community foundations play.
In a similar way, like getting to know the nonprofits so that I understand what our local needs are, so that if I'm meeting a donor and I hear what they're interested in, it might be not something that's not top of mind or hasn't made it in the local paper, they don't know it's a need, or also knowing that what nonprofits in our area are doing well and which ones have a weakness, because I'm having those conversations with our nonprofits. I know where their needs are, and then also when they're doing okay. And then, so just keeping that in so that, and being aware of the opportunities for our donors locally, but then through our donor advised funds, letting them also know it doesn't have to stay in White Bear, that they could give to any 501c3 through their donor advised fund. So helping them know that their philanthropy we would love it to stay right here and give all of it to the community foundation. That helping donors just meet what are they interested in. So I think it is that conversation and relationship building to understand what are their interests, and then if they don't know it, like I can help them look for it and find the resources they need to make the decisions to make their gifts.
Perfect. Thank you all. That kind of segues into my next question, Jack. You kind of get the question a lot. Oh, sorry.
So I want to up our imagination game of how we relate to nonprofits and donors and how we make that connection. I ran into a community foundation in California that had four pretty traumatic experiences, but what it did was it transformed the relationship between donors and the nonprofits in their communities. So they had four kind of disasters within 3.5 years. There were 2 fires, there was a massive mudslide, there was a mass shooting event over this kind of 3.5 year arc. They didn't have any unrestricted endowment, but they had about $500 million in donor advised funds. And traditionally, in that community, the nonprofits courted the donors who had donor advised funds who were interested in their area. So it was very much of a traditional hat in hand, will you continue to support, or yada, 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 right? But as a result of this series of disasters in this county, what happened was that the donors realized that they had assets, but they didn't have knowledge or relationships or capacities to know what was needed in the community and how to respond. And so all of a sudden, the donors saw the nonprofits not as a group that needed their money, and that was kind of hierarchical in nature. It shifted their relationship to something that was more mutual. And so I have assets, that's what I can bring to this relationship, but you have knowledge about what will be most helpful to our communities. And you have the skill and the network to deliver. And so all of a sudden it shifted hierarchically to one of kind of mutual respect and relational equity of sorts. And it transformed their community. So I think this relationship question of how do we connect, but also how do we help people imagine the relationship could be very powerful for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one of the things we've added to the board meetings is to have one of the nonprofits come and talk to us about what their needs are, what their programs are that they're thinking about, and it really helps from a educational standpoint. I would describe myself as one of those people that's retired there and hasn't necessarily spent my life in the community, and it's really been beneficial to me to find out what those needs are and just to know more about what types of things they are doing to reach out to the people that need those services.
Yeah, thank you. And they've been past grant recipients too, so it's nice for the board to see where the granting dollars have been going to. Yes, thank you for adding that.
So, can you hear me? So I have a question for Mr. Driscoll. When he was talking about having people come to the building that he built and having the organizations come and meet with each other, you called it wine and wills. So explain, was that a little marketing piece to get people there?
So yes, this is a concept that we're just rolling out, and one of the things that we find is that many people don't understand legacy giving. And having an attorney that does understand that and works with clients that do that, that can help educate a whole group of people. And we're also trying to bring in the younger set. You know, as was said earlier today, you need all of those generational perspectives. And I think that bringing different groups in gives us a better perspective every time. So yeah, it's definitely a marketing piece.
And to add on what Jack said too, we're looking at also adding an accountant and a financial advisor. So it's kind of like your framework of everything you need to think about. So yeah, we're hoping to have that event this summer. So we think it'll go over really well. Yeah. Any other questions? Perfect. Okay. Oh.
Thank you so much for being on this panel. I'm wondering, so knowing that you recently came from nonprofit work, first of all, did you interact much with community foundations in that work? And if so, what was it that you especially appreciated about a community foundation? And what maybe do you bring into these roles thinking, these are things I want to change a little to improve relationships with nonprofits?
Nonprofits need general operating funds, so don't make me create a project to get the grant to then keep the lights on, even though that project is probably something really cool that the nonprofit could do. So that's my first thing, is we should fund general operating. We all know this. So from I did work with community foundations, and looking for grants is how I learned about this job. So that's thank you to the Council of Nonprofits for posting jobs as well as grant opportunities. I had the most experience in my most recent job with the Duluth Superior Community Foundation, and it was really helpful to me because they had many, now that I think about it, it was donor advised funds or larger groups of funding for specific things. And so I was able to meet with the staff there and figure out, and they were able to identify, like, we were like, I think this might work. And so they were like, oh no, but this fund or this grant would be, so that they were able to advise me as a nonprofit development person of like opportunities that I didn't think I qualified for a grant, that they were like, oh, you actually look at this, or also introducing me to other people that had other grant opportunities available. So the community foundations are a great resource for nonprofits.
The bulk of my development work has been really metro focused, and so I did have experience with some of what I would consider to be the big community foundations. So moving to something smaller, like my size, it was really important to me a couple of things. One, to bring in a younger generation, kind of like Jack and Dr. Jolly both mentioned. I'm looking really hard at bringing multi-generational situations to my board and making sure that there no longer seems to be so many barriers to access philanthropy as a donor. That's been really important to me, and given the demographics of my county, that's extremely important, that we have to show people there's a place for them in philanthropy. So that is one thing that's important to me coming into this work. As a former development director, transparency and access to the staff and the decision makers, and understanding the process and understanding how to get my name in front of them, even if it's not the right fit, were always something I was striving for. So when I took on this role, that's why I probably have skewed really heavily on the side of spending time with nonprofit partners, because I want to make sure that there are no secrets and that they know that I actually am a partner, that I'm not just sitting behind a desk reviewing grant requests, that I am here to be invested in your work. And similarly, I show up and help them table at community events. I listen in. I don't vote on any, but I listen in on a lot of event steering committees. I help support quietly event planning in the background, because those are all my skill sets. So I didn't want to just switch to the other side of the desk and leave behind behind all of those skills that I had built as a development director, knowing that a lot of small nonprofits need that just as much as they need that money in a lot of situations. So I look at my job as broader than just distributing funds.
While the mic's coming around, I just want to add what Meredith was saying about supporting operations. So Alexandria, our grant round opens in a week, and we have over $75,000 to give away, which is huge for our community. And we are now accepting more operating dollars because we know that the nonprofits in our community are very small, sometimes volunteer-led, sometimes one person. So we don't want them to create a whole new program just to get grant dollars. We really want to support their operations. So, thank you.
I'm from Painesville.
Yep.
And our community foundation figured out that we don't want to do the work. And so we grant money as resources to nonprofits that are going to manage what's going on. They spend their time doing the proper thing in what they do, and we help them raise money for whatever the cause is, and then we're out of it. We do not have to manage it.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that we've done is we've tried to get the nonprofits, the small town nonprofits, to invest their monies into the community foundation. So they actually get a return on their dollars,
Mm-hmm.
and then they end up developing their own endowment funds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that we do not want to do the work as a foundation, as our foundation. We do not want to manage it. We just want to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to trust in working with the nonprofits that they are going to get the work done.
Yes, thank you. That's a great point that nonprofits can set up agency funds with us, like you mentioned. So we can help them fundraise. They can save it for a rainy day. They can use the investments, the interest that they make. So yes, thank you for pointing that out. Oh, another question?
I just want to ask a question about the operating funds for your grant cycle coming up. Did you change that language in the application or something?
Yes, we did. Yep. It'll be going out May 1st, but yep, this is the first year we changed that language to, if they have a new special project, they can still apply for that, but we're opening for operation support as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, we're expecting to get a lot more applications. We'll see. I mean, it's first year. We'll see how it goes, but we're looking to really support that for our community. Mm-hmm. Yep. I want to make a comment, too, on what Dr. Kathy Allen said. 3 years ago in Alexandria, we had 2 tornadoes, like, right in a row, and we had a response fund set up that people could give to. So we raised a lot of money, close to $50,000 that was back in our community, but we gave it to the nonprofits that can support the people individually. So we don't know these people exactly that were affected, but we know the nonprofits in our community do. So it's a great way to help them raise money. We have the infrastructure. We are set up to be able to take those donations while these smaller nonprofits can't. So it's just another great example of how we work together.
I'd like to add one more thing
Yes.
that we found out, is that by supporting these nonprofits with a grant, they were able to raise a lot more money because our organization is credible. People
Exactly.
think we're pretty good. So that nonprofit is able to pick up a lot more dollars because we're there supporting them.
Yep, exactly. They see the community foundation is behind them, so people know. Yep. Mm-hmm. If there's no other questions. Jack, I have a question for you, if you're okay to share. Jack has also a donor-advised fund set up with the foundation, and he uses it in a great way to have the community foundation benefit the community, but also the nonprofit. So I think some people think, like, why shouldn't I just give to the nonprofit directly? Why should I set up a donor-advised fund? So Jack, if you won't mind sharing, I think you have a really cool story on why to work more with the community foundation.
So during the pandemic, we hunkered down in Alexandria at our cabin, and we ordered everything in like everybody else did, and then it hit the news that there was a big trucker shortage. And then one day I got a package, and I realized I was part of the problem. And so I set up a DAF to support the local tech colleges over-the-road truck driving school, and I gave away 8 full scholarships for 3 years in a row. Now, I also use that as a slush, my DAF as a slush fund. So recently, my car died. I donated it to Car Care. They happened to come to our meeting and give a presentation, and it turns out they need an alignment rack. So part of my slush money will go towards promoting raising the funds for that rack. And it just keeps continuing and building, and every year I take any leftover money I have from my yearly philanthropy and throw it in the fund. And it's building over time. So it's kind of a piggy bank. Plus, it makes our assets look better.
The nice thing is, you all probably know that donor advised funds are just so versatile. You know, you can keep it there when you need it, use it however you want to benefit the community. So thank you for sharing. Is there any other questions? How are we for time? I don't have a... Oh, okay, we have a couple more minutes, so...
I'd really like to say it's nice getting questions, so if you have some others.
Or comments. Those
Or
are nice.
comments.
Yeah.
I have to add another neat thing that's happening by having granting fund and endowment funds is we get a return from the community foundation to pay for our director through the funds, invested funds. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any funds to pay a director. So we have to help fund, get endowment funds under our umbrella so that investment money can come back to us so we can provide the needed services through our community director. So it's a big partnership in order to make this all work. How are we going to have somebody take care of things if we don't have any dollars? We have to raise money to pay for our director. Now we have monies coming in annually from the endowment funds that are providing our dollars for our director. So it's really a big tie how these things all work out, and you really can develop a good foundation and a good era for your community.
Yes, thank you. I have another question for the panel. All of our community foundations are obviously in individual communities, and there are a lot of nonprofits that benefit the work. So how does your community foundation stay kind of neutral, but yet support all the organizations in your community? Answer my own question.
That's a tough question. I think it's by being open, keeping the process open, and inviting everybody to the table. And the legitimate, true need projects float to the top. And they're pretty obvious to see when you put them all in one pot together. So that would be how I would do it.
Yeah, I think I'm a total open door policy. I meet with, again, I spend a lot of time meeting with nonprofit partners. I'll meet with anyone and I'll listen to anything they have to say, whether we have a history or not. And then I think transparency and really clear-cut processes and communication is how we try to do it. Laura's nodding, so I think I got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it's the open and also like keeping the donor perspective in mind. So it might be I have personal, individual things and things that I would fund with my philanthropy, but that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to help the community, support the community. So what are the needs of the community and how can donors meet that need? And so understanding the broad perspective of the community and continuing the relationships with our nonprofit partners. So getting to know them and what their needs are, and then also how we can be a resource to them as a community foundation. And so I've been bringing together our nonprofit partners together so they can also, one of those things that I've really enjoyed about being part of community giving is the peer-to-peer work, that there are 3 executive directors of a community foundation here. So we can ask each other the same things, and sometimes that doesn't happen in the nonprofit world. So I've been bringing our nonprofit partners together and also figuring out a way for them to be a resource to each other, because they're asking the same donors for some of the same dollars, so how can they collaborate as well? So in our last grant round, credit to the Greater White Bear Lake Community Foundation, they really pushed for projects in the last grant round that were partnerships between nonprofits doing similar work or ways that nonprofits could support each other. So doing a theater program with more accessibility, so working with an organization to bring in the autism perspective to theater productions, which the theater group did not have that expertise, but there was another nonprofit in town that did. So I think that's another way that we can help make sure everyone gets everything they need.
I think you made a great point too. Grant rounds really help. You know, the application, all the information nonprofit organizations share with the community foundation. I always have that ready when I meet with donors too. Because say, for example, we maybe couldn't fund it. It's still a need in the community, so that is a really great way to share that information.
One of the things I was going to add also is that the community giving does put out a list. I mean, going back even up to 10 or 12 years of all of the grants that have been given to the various organizations in the community, and it does help. I mean, it's not, you're not looking at it from a standpoint of, well, we can't give anything to them this year because of that, but just to give us a perspective on where the funds have gone, and to, I mean, consider a certain amount of equity, I guess, would be helpful. I mean, it's helpful from that perspective.
Thank you.
Can I add one more thing to
Yeah.
that, AJ? And I think it's a continuation of a conversation we've been having all day, but making sure your board and your decision makers reflect the community you're serving is probably, in my opinion, the most important way that you make sure the entire community is seen and heard, that those people need to be in decision-making positions as well as being recipients of what you're doing. So that helps negate any idea that you're only giving to pet causes if those people are making the decisions with you. Yeah.
Yep. Great point, great point. Back to my comment earlier about a lot of people retiring and moving to Alexandria. I get the question a lot of, where should I give? And I never answer that question. I start with, what do you care about? What are your passions? We have this conversation going. So they tell me the things that they care about, and then we meet again, and I bring them a list of, here are the causes you said you care about, and here are what they're doing in the community. So it's more of a conversation to help them get to that conclusion on where they want their gifts to go. I think we have time for one more, maybe? Not sure what time. 11:40, okay. I think we have there's any other questions or? Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, thank you all so much. Oh, yes, Jack. Yeah.
No, I'm not going to, no. That's scary. I have a question for all of you. We have a conundrum in Alexandria in that our population doubles in size during the summer. And I would love some suggestions from any of you as to how to reach those people to get them to help the community they come to every summer. It is driving me nuts.
I don't know if this is a total answer for that. This does not seem like it's on. But we have our town has First Friday events, so every first Friday of a month, there's an art walk. And so at least 3 times a year, the Community Foundation does a First Friday event. And we've gotten a lot of people that walk through the doors who are they're up there for the summer. What do you guys do? I didn't even know you were here, didn't know anything about that. So if you have kind of an open door event, sometimes you can get them in the door. That's my only idea, because the only other thing I've ever thought of is maybe just doing a mailing to the addresses.
Yep. Remind me, where are you located?
Grand Rapids.
Oh, thank you. Yep.
One of the other things that we've done in Painesville, and Painesville has a large lake community, and then we have our city community and our lake community. But I think meeting the people where they are is really powerful. I'm also the school district superintendent, and so I often try to think about, how do I reach people that I think know all about, but really they don't know all about. And one of the avenues that we used for our referendum, and we're actually going to use this year as a sponsorship for the Community Foundation, is our Music in the Park. And so being present, because people are naturally going to that space, and then just having an opportunity to have a visual presence, and really, where are the people gathering naturally when they're coming to the community, and having just some presence in that space.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm going to bring an example from another part of my life. We did a Rotary grant for the Hayward area, where the grant was to buy software or to they've got the software. You can put in what your needs are by the nonprofits, and then what they're doing is advertising it to the tourists coming in or the weekenders, saying, oh, if you got an hour, you can go look here, you can do this something on Saturday. It's to get the volunteer side of it, but I see it's got opportunity about the fundraising. How do you connect with them? One, these are our needs as physical needs, but every one of those needs money too.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you.
This was relatively new to me, and maybe it's old hat to most of you, but your county GIS system, you know, the GIS system that tells, you can go in now and you can draw where you want the addresses to come from. So you could say, I'm going to target a fundraiser or for this lake, and you can go around and you can pick the properties that you want and pull a mailing list off of the first tier, the second tier, whatever you want to do by drawing the boundaries, and you get their tax mailing address, not the property address. So you reach the people that are coming and know where they're from. So that might be a handy tool sometime to just pull a list and see.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea. We're also talking about working with all of our local lake associations too. Like if we can ever go present there or get on their mailing list.
So I come from Door County, Wisconsin, so similar. It's a tourist destination, second home community. We have about 26,000 people year-round, but then we balloon to 1 million in the summer.
Wow.
And some of those are just there for a week, but some of them have second homes. So, I mean, in addition to thinking about all the marketing, you know, that's a whole another topic, but we've really tried to bring in as many passionate groups of people to start initiatives under the Community Foundation, like 100 Plus Women Who Care, or we have some funds that help give funds to people who are going through medical, experiences. So bringing in the passionate people so they're doing work under the Community Foundation. So then they learn about, they know this one little part like the Women's Fund, but then they learn about everything else. We're also working on creating a new program called Engage, where we've brought in different nonprofits and governmental agencies to say, like, what would you want somebody who is just coming to Door County to know about our community? What is important to somebody to know so they can become civically engaged? So whether it's on a board or through philanthropy, and now we're going to bring in some of those like model philanthropists and engaged people in the community to say, how would you want to receive this information? So we're trying to figure out a way to bring in new retirees, or maybe people that were not brought up in Door County and don't know about it as much, to learn about how they can be more engaged, and naturally that will bring them to giving back of their time or money. Yeah. But I'd love to connect and learn more about what Alexandria is doing.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I think we're out of time, but thank you all so much. Thank you. Mm-hmm.